This is July the 7th, 2022. My name is Tommy Tatum. I'm making this video in regards to some of the reporting that I've done a couple of years ago about some sex trafficking, some organized crime involving law enforcement. And this is unscripted. And right now I'm looking at some notes of stories that I sent to some people who I'm making this video for. And while I'm doing that, I'll start back and to say how I started. So my name is Tommy Tatum. I was born and raised in Greenville, Mississippi, and I spent years moving around. I finally came back and I got into fine dining restaurants, managing those. I did those for years. And then I got into the radio business, and I worked for a man that owned 10 radio stations here in the Mississippi Delta. So I was exposed to a man named Thomas Churchill at that point in time, who's real famous in the computer techno geek world. And he actually had been mayor of Dubuque, Iowa, and a couple other places, and started newsrooms. So I learned how to do the news from him. So we started like a Delta Daily News, which is a local in the Mississippi Delta news site that we started online and on the radio. So fast forward several years, and then it's summer of 2020, and it's actually the end of 2019 when COVID's starting to come around. I'm paying attention to the news, so I see what's coming. So anyway, about June, I stopped working for the radio station because it's the middle of the Mississippi Delta, Washington County, Mississippi, where Benny Thompson's district is. There's no money here. The radio was hard enough to sell to begin with, and I just kind of felt like the Lord had led me to do something different. And that was, and I didn't know at the time what I was getting into, but I figured, I felt like the Lord wanted me to start doing local news. And so I started a little local news site, actually on Facebook first, and then I did the website called the Washington County Auditor. And first couple of conflicts I had with these people, and when I say these people, I mean the law enforcement, the politicians in Washington County, anything, was, well, let me back up just a second. So I figured instead of working for the radio station, I could go make enough money, because people were really wanting the county board meetings and the city board meetings and all that stuff live streamed, because COVID had everybody locked up. You couldn't see anything that was happening in your government, and a lot of people, and there was some controversy, local controversy going on, and people so wanted that live stream. So I figured, hey, if I can go out, cover these events, maybe do some feel-good stories about people in the community, I'll just start my own little news thing, and I'll support myself, and I'll do that. And that's what I felt like the Lord wanted me to do anyway. So I started doing that. Now, one of my first stories that I did was about elections. So I wanted, there was a special election, no big deal really as far as my mind. I just wanted to go in, and it was kind of my deal with the news was to show people how your local media is supposed to work, you know, holding these politicians accountable. So that devolved into me being attacked at a polling site for doing nothing wrong other than my First Amendment rights, illegally detained, and these cops absolutely would do nothing about it. That nobody in the city, the municipal county, nothing. Nobody would do their jobs. They were protecting each other. My civil rights were absolutely violated, and to this day, Attorney General of Mississippi all the way down, nobody has given me justice for this. So maybe we can address all this. So I basically got attacked at one point by election bailiff, and like I said, nobody would do anything. That led to one morning I get a phone call. I got a lot of attention for that stuff, right? People were seeing it on Facebook, online, look what's going on. And then one morning I was going to, I think I may be still at the radio station at this point in time. The dates do kind of melt together. But I got a phone call that said, you need to be at the county courthouse as soon as possible. Okay, so I go to the county courthouse, and it was pretty, the county where I live was about 80%, 90% about black African American, and it's all African American men out there. And they turned out to be the road crew for the county, and they were upset. They were heartbroken because the county had hired this young boy on a Monday, and that boy was dead on a Friday night, and they wanted me to tell their story, and that's exactly what I did. I put a guy on, let's let him say, hey, what's got you upset? Why am I here? Why are you here? And he tells a story about how the county gets this person killed. And believe me, I had no idea the depths of the snake, the reptile pit I was wandering into. But the very first day, and this is right when I think Corona's hit full blown, they want to lock the world down. Every politician wants to hide behind closed doors and decide the rest of your life. And they didn't want any media there. I didn't know why in this one particular, you know, she was arrested on 17 counts of voter fraud. Marla Brooks in Mississippi, county supervisor, and maybe has something to do with it. But I've come to realize that there was much more that they were all hiding. And get back to the story, is the very first day that I go in there, they try to ban me from being a news organization. I can't come to the meetings. I'm not real news, all this stuff. And I thought maybe it was personal. I didn't know what to make out of it. They hated me because I was white, because they are some of the most vicious racists I've ever seen in my life. Come to find out, I think it was all personal politics and greed and just corruption and evil. So I said all that to say this. That got me a bunch of attention from the people in the community. And it's the poor black people in the community and some of the white folks. And so then, after seeing all this unfold, one of my sources came forward and told me about Eric and Derek Simmons. And along with this story was a story about $5 million being embezzled out of Hollandale, Mississippi. I had an official audited report as a receipt somebody gave me for that. You can see where they stole $5 million. This particular person was African-American, ex-military, ex-cop, my source. And tells me about how there's clandestine KKK meetings and Masonic meetings down in a little small town not too far from Washington County. It was in Washington County, but not too far from Greenville. And then he goes up to tell me the story, and it rung a bell because I remember these circumstances happening about Eric Simmons, who's the mayor of Greenville, Mississippi, Derek Simmons, who's the state senator, and these are all like Benny Thompson's little proteges, right? And Benny Thompson's congressman where I live. But he tells me about, and this is where it rang a bell, I remember a story about a man who had came back when he got grown. I do remember this happening. It was several years back. There was a guy who, this all got played off as a gay love triangle. Apparently this young man came back, and there was a gay guy who used to own the Hollywood Palace. It was like a local venue here in Mississippi. And I never had any reason to pay that much attention to that story at the time when I heard all that. But what my source told me was what that was they used to pass this little boy around like a sex doll when he was a kid. And when he got old enough, when he got grown, he came back to kill him. And he killed one or two of them, I think, in a couple of weekends. And then I think he got killed the third weekend or whatever it was. And it all got played off as a gay love triangle. And my source named them. He named Eric and Derek Simmons, and I'm sure there's other people involved, but he didn't name them at that particular time. And this is the thing, I know Eric Simmons. Eric Simmons asked me to go to his 20-year high school reunion. I used to run the radio stations. He loved me. He used to pay me to do remotes and advertising for him. I used to make him look really good when I would do events for the city through the radio station, without a penny of their money, by the way. And so I had no personal reason to hate Eric. It was in my best interest to have this mayor love me. But you know what? I asked him. I sent him a text and tried to call him, no answer, and try to get a text. And do you know about these accusations? And I'll just say this. They can say whatever they want to. To this day, I have not been asked to change that story. I have not been sued over that story. Nothing. I've been thrown in jail for writing a story, or felonies for doing news stories about them, and then they disappeared. I was basically kidnapped and thrown in prison against my will on more than one occasion for writing these stories. So you can imagine that got a lot of attention. Of course, I'm insane, I'm crazy. People around here can't wrap their minds around the evil that is in this world when it comes to sex trafficking. And the evil it's basically all with the Satanism going on nowadays, in my opinion. And it don't matter if you believe that or not, these people do, and they run the world, so they're Satanists. So I started just getting tips and tips and tips. I started getting tips. I mean, I can go through some of these right here, and that's why I had this pulled up. It's hard for me to keep them in order. And I started doing these stories, and nobody ever once denies any of them. Let me get to where I started sending some stories to the team. Yeah. So that popped into a story. A lady does a story about how she is picked up from a person, if you call him an informant, whatever his deal is, he's a horrible human being, dope dealer, meth head, but he's not like that with the sheriff's department one way or the other. She calls me up, and I don't know who she is, and I do the story about how she was picked up and she was drugged. Next thing she knows is she was waked up in a Harlow's casino here in Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi, naked in a room full of men. Now, she does say she doesn't know if she was raped or not, but when she ran out of the hotel room naked down to the lobby to where a security guard slash sheriff was, he told her he couldn't do anything because he didn't have a warrant. Okay. There's a little story I did hear about when I did press charges against these people, these county employees, for assaulting me, for just basically doing, hey, this is how you register to vote stories, or this is how you do this in the county courthouse. Of course, they didn't know that they're public employees and I have every right to go there and videotape what I have the right to do in public. I actually got assaulted there. Never file charges, nothing ever happened to it. And these are some of the public integrity complaints led from this that I sent to Attorney General Finch going back to 2019, September of 2019. And then I started immediately getting these stories about these rapes and all these murders that the sheriff's involved in. I remember this happening 25 years ago. We knew that the sheriff did something with killing these people. And I had a source come through and tell me, because one of the people main in the story is Washington County Sheriff Milton Gaston, implicated in drug smuggling and murder conspiracy. Actually, I knew this guy, and he's dead now. He died of natural causes, some kind of seizure. He had seizures real bad. But stories about how he was in one of these dope houses one night. He freaked out because the sheriff was there. They told him, don't worry about it. He runs all this shit. Hearsay. But he did tell us, and I remember to this day, stay out of Cummins Trailer Park. Somebody's going to get killed. And within 2 weeks, somebody was dead there. And it was a dope dealer. No, it wasn't a dope dealer. What it was some guy who the sheriff had running dope for. He had something on the sheriff. And they rolled up on him and sprayed him with bullets. And there was 2 people killed. It was this guy, and I had to go back and look at his name. But there was a guy that used to run Cummins Trailer Park, and he was just kind of collateral damage.